I actually brought it. I'll admit I brought it up. I was on the phone with Coach Patterson this afternoon, and I actually brought it up to him. So I won't share what he said on it. But I know Kirk really likes Ladell Betts. I really like Ladell Betts. He's been coaching running backs now at Iowa for several years. I think that's been a healthy room since he took over. And I just wonder if I'm not saying he's qualified to be an offensive coordinator. Believe me, that's not what I'm saying. But given the fact that Kirk only has a few years left, I just wonder if it could work bringing in a guy like, I don't know, a QB's guru, whether it's Randy Hedberg from North Dakota State or someone else that could function as a passing game coordinator. You elevate Ladell Betts to run game coordinator, and those guys kind of work hand in hand. That does work in certain places. Now, ultimately, someone's got to be the final say as to run versus pass. What are you doing? But when it's determined if you're running or passing, then you have two different play callers and two different specialized play callers. I don't know if that would work or if Kirk would entertain something like that. It probably won't happen, but I just know he likes Ladell Betts a lot, and I would be comfortable with that if it was the right guy as passing game coordinator. And the reason I bring up Randy Hedberg, we've talked about it before. He was interested in the quarterback coaching job 2 years ago, and he's been the passing game coordinator at North Dakota State for quite a while. Was responsible for, helping 3 different players at North Dakota State, translate to being 0 to 3-star quarterbacks into NFL guys who are still playing in the league. Carson Wentz just signed with the Rams today. Easton Stick is still the backup with the Chargers, and Trey Lance is down with Dallas. So anyway, just a thought.
So unless that candidates list is rather long, you gave Tom 3 selections and he was really confident with 1.
Yeah, I didn't. I have not done enough research on some of these guys. I know, like his crew, on 3's crew, HawkeyeReport.com, they do a great job, and I know they put out some early candidates for the job potentially. So if obviously, Tom thinks that Kirk's going to go with someone he knows. I didn't add Joe Philbin to the mix. Maybe if I had added Joe Philbin, that'd be more of a conversation. Now, I don't think I don't know how old Andy is, but he's not Joe Philbin's age. But Philbin would be another guy you would think maybe. But, Grubb doesn't have any connection to Iowa other than he's from Iowa. And his system at Washington, can you imagine him coming to Iowa, given what he's done at Washington? I mean, it would be fabulous. I would love it to death. But I just cannot imagine. And this is another conversation we had the other day on the air. Would there be any reason for Grubb to come to Iowa? What is he making there as offensive coordinator?
You want me to take a guess?
I'll look it up as you.
I got to think that the Pac-12 is not paying in a place like Washington. If he was in the SEC or a couple stops in the Big Ten, I would put him in the 1.2 million range. But I'm going to say more like, well, Brian was making and is making what, 950?
Well, you're gonna be very surprised when I give you the number.
1.2.
He's making $2 million a year.
Okay.
He's making $2 million a year.
Okay.
So what reason would he have to come to Iowa at this point? And I have a hard time imagining him not getting some Power 5 offers, head coaching offers by the end of the year anyways. So unless he wants to be closer to home and he thinks, hey, Kirk's going to be gone in a few, if they give him indication that Kirk is leaving in a couple of years, you can take over here. Maybe that's the only way he'd even consider it, and you could possibly get him on, but they're not going to pay him $2 million a year. There's just no way. There's just no way that happens.
If they can upgrade the offense that much, and they've got a TV contract that's kicking in at somewhere in the 20 million, 25 million more range starting next year,
they're going to have to raise everybody's salaries exponentially. Like Phil Parker can't be making $1 million a year, and Ryan Grubb comes over and makes $2 million. That can't happen. So I think that's a pipe dream. I mean, some of the other names on my list that I think are more plausible, like a Tim Polasek. Obviously, that would be a safe one. John Budmeyer is a safe. I say safe one. It's a safe one from Kirk's perspective. I think a John Budmeyer hire is extremely risky because he has not proven himself anywhere. He struggled at Colorado State in his 1 year there. He was the quarterback's coach at Wisconsin, and their offense was not great when he was there. I mean, they had decent quarterback production, as I understand it, when he was coaching quarterbacks, but he hasn't proven anything at Iowa. Quarterback play has been abysmal since he came here. and it was abysmal before, but it certainly hasn't been better since he got here. So that's a risky hire. Paul Chryst to me is a safe hire from Kirk's perspective and from my perspective, and that'd be my most comfortable choice at this point, given how Kirk wants this offense to look.
Yeah, I just looked up an article with the 10 highest paid coordinators in college football. I'm not seeing. Anyway, that's about 6 months old. I don't know what. They have a couple over 2 million, but yeah, he's in rarefied air.
Yeah, and Mikey Mike in the chat says Tim Polasek would be my choice. I'm not averse to that. I just know Tim Polasek. I've been told on good authority by former players that his coaching style is so much different than like what George Barnett's coaching style is. And let's be honest, George Barnett hasn't blown the doors off this offensive line group since he got here. But I don't know. I mean, he's been successful. He's a yeller and a screamer. And not saying he's another Chris Doyle. I'm not implying that. And I'm not saying I have anything against Chris Doyle. But there is that aura about who Chris Doyle was and how he coached as a strength guy at Iowa. Do you bring in a guy who maybe is a little bit like that? I'm not saying he is another Chris Doyle, but you get what I'm saying. I still think we're only 3 years removed from that whole controversy. We're 4 years, whatever it's been, and we're a few months removed from the lawsuit finally getting settled. So my guess is they're going to bring in somebody like a Paul Chryst who's seasoned and is older. My guess is Kirk doesn't bring in some young gun like everybody wants. Or if it is a younger guy, it's going to be someone that Kirk is really, really familiar with.
And he's certainly familiar with Paul Chryst. So,
yeah, maybe he can bring in Parker Hesse. Look at Eric Potter in the chat.
Okay.
Let's bring in Parker Hesse. Former defensive end turned tight end in the NFL, Mark.
Yes. He's ready to go into coaching. I think he's doing rather well himself right now.
How about Nate Shieldhouse? What do you think about that idea?
I think that everyone on that list is successful to a large degree. So Nathan Shieldhouse, yes.
I think that'd be I think
absolutely.
I think they should entertain Nate Shieldhouse. Absolutely. I mean, it's worth a phone call. And I know maybe Kirk wouldn't do that. It's kind of like maybe he views it kind of like trying to poach from someone in your conference because they are a team they play every year at Iowa State. But I wouldn't care. I'd go give him a call and say, hey, what's your interest level? I know Nate Shieldhouse is a young family and I'm sure enjoys living in Ames, but Iowa City's a great place to live as well. Probably a pretty good place to raise a family. And he has coached several positions at Iowa State. And this year has not been great, but it hasn't been terrible. They've improved in certain facets. It's his first year there. His dad played at Iowa. He's familiar with the Big Ten because he was a quarterback, very successful quarterback at Illinois. Great guy. I can tell you that. Great guy. I think it'd be an interesting one.
And you stick it to the rival.
Absolutely.
The process.
Yes. And you stick it to Illinois.
Yeah.
You stick it to Illinois because they stuck it to Iowa with the hire of Brett Bielema. See, what goes around comes around. It's completely fair.
Iowa was not looking for a coach. They didn't stick it to Iowa by hiring Brett Bielema.
He's an Iowa guy. He's got an Iowa Herky tattoo, a Tiger Hawk tattoo on his leg. He kisses it every night he goes to bed, Mark.
He already coached at Wisconsin.
Well, yeah, he stuck it to Iowa at Wisconsin. So did Barry Alvarez. But I'm just saying, if you're Iowa, you can stick it to Iowa State and you can stick it to Illinois.